All right. We are live now on Facebook and YouTube. So we have Matt Ratliff with us, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, so my name is Matt. I'm the founder of Elite Email Academy and the founder of Inbox IQ that was purpose built for high-level users.
Great. Well, thanks so much for jumping on with us today, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for
I
having
did
me.
get one specific question, so we'll try to
Yeah.
knock this one out. Um, so one question I got was he was asking what is the difference in attempted emails versus sent emails? Why don't the emails that were sent added to the error tab?
Okay, so I think I know what the question is. So whenever you are in HighLevel or really in any sending platform that's going to send an email, it always has to interface with some sort of backend SMTP or email engine that I like to call it. So let's say that you've got a list of users or contacts, you've selected them all, you've triggered your emails ready to go, and you press the send button. So now what's going to happen? All of those contacts are going to be queued up. And let's say that maybe the email engine, in this case, maybe it's Mailgun, right? They have their own suppressions database that's already looking for hard bounces, any unsubscribes, any spam complaints. And so that sort of thing is taken out of your view, especially if you're with GoHighLevel and you're using LC email. So those suppressions are removed from your view, but hopefully within your own contact audience, hopefully those D&Ds come back. But typically it's removed from your view, but that's more than likely what's happening. So if something shows accepted and it's lower than 100%, then there is a certain percentage that it couldn't be delivered to. Maybe it was an unverified address. Maybe it is in the suppressions table, but something is causing that problem. So that's typically what that comes back to. Typically, it's hard bounces. That's typically what you will find, and that should be what that's related to. But I could probably narrow that down a little bit more if I had a little bit more information.
So as an agency owner, in HighLevel, what is like your go-to suggestion when somebody says, "Oh, like what if one of my clients says, "Hey Jen, I'm having an issue with spam." What is your what should be my SOP to be like, "Hey, this is where I should go to figure this out."
Yeah, well, the very first question. So, if anyone is trying to do any sort of really super cold email out of HighLevel and they're using Mailgun or SendGrid or any of those platforms, that's going to be a red flag. First of all, it's going to be very difficult to make that work with cold email. If you're wanting to use any sort of or do any sort of cold email, I would recommend that you look into Instantly. That's going to be a platform that's going to take advantage of Google Workspace. And there's a really very good how-to article to kind of build that flow and that ecosystem. But if we're talking on the premise of you've got a warm audience and people know of you, right, and know what you do, that kind of thing, know what kind of problems you can help them solve. If your emails are going to spam, there's several things that come to mind. So number one, I'll give you guys tons of tips with this. Okay, so be sure to jot it down. Typically, the very first thing that an inbox provider is going to look at, whether you be sending it to Yahoo, Google, Outlook, any of those, the very first thing is that IP address. So every communication online is done through an IP. That's just the way every system communicates online. So if that IP that just sent the email to the inbox, if that has a bad reputation with the inbox provider, no matter how good your copy is, no matter how reputable your domain is, that email will about 98% of the time go to spam. Okay, so know that. So that's the first thing. And so if you're on Mailgun's shared pool of IPs, and really any system that has a shared pool of IPs are typically not so favorable by inbox providers. Now, Mailgun and all of these email service providers, they try to do their best as best they can to make sure those IPs stay reputable. And they do it with different ways. So they get their own internal process to make that happen. But if you are using, let's say, Mailgun with HighLevel, just because that's what documentation inside of HighLevel, speaks to, more than likely that may be the case. You'll notice that maybe your emails are landing in the inbox with Google, but maybe with a Microsoft inbox, they're going to junk. the very first thing that I would look at are the IP addresses. We could get super technical. I could show you different things on how to pull that out. But if you're using LC email, you don't have access to Mailgun logs. Okay, there's no logs. If you were using Mailgun with your own account, then I would say go into Mailgun, go to logs, and look at the log entries. There's a lot of JSON values and JSON output from your delivered mail. And through those logs, you can strip out the IP addresses to know exactly what to look for. And then you can use those IPs and do some additional testing. So IP reputation is number one. If you're on a significant block list, that's going to be another problem area. So if you've ever gone to any sort of block list checker, there's tons out there. There's close to about 300 different systems that are considered block lists, and there's only a handful that you ever need to worry about. And I'll go ahead and call them out to you just so that you can jot them down. So the first one is going to be SpamHaus. That's a big one. It's spelled SPAMHAUS. So SpamHaus, SpamCop, AbuseAt. AbuseAt is actually a different tier within SpamHaus, but AbuseAt is another one. SenderScore, that used to be called Return Pass. So SenderScore is a good one. Barracuda, if it's B2B email, then Barracuda typically is a big player in that space. And so if you are listed on Barracuda and it's a blacklist, then they're going to essentially block you from being received. Let's see, what's another one? SORBS is one that if it shows up, typically it indicates to me that the IP or your domain is going in the wrong direction. And so you need to change course very quickly to try to fix whatever's happening. If you're on SORBS, I have seen inbox providers outright block the email. And that would show up in Mailgun logs or whatever system you're using. It should show it under logs. But SORBS is another one. It's just not as significant as the others. And then spam rats. That's for these inbox providers that are not super well known, but spam rats can be pretty significant with some. So that's my list of blacklists to be mindful of. Another thing is that the links in an email. So if you've ever used Mail Genius to test your email copy or test your emails in general, or Mail Tester, those are decent systems to kind of go by, but there's a lot of stuff they point out that's not so correct. One thing being the number of links in an email. It doesn't matter the number of links in your emails. In fact, if you're on Russell Brunson's list, then the emails that he's sending, they're littered with tons of links. Okay, so links, the number of links don't matter. It's the link quality that matters. So if a link has a bad reputation with an inbox provider, or maybe if it's on a significant block list, like if you're using from your agency, if you're using trigger links from HighLevel and you've not properly changed the API domain to your own domain, to a white label domain, then you're at the mercy of their MSGS and DR domain, which is constantly on a block list. And so that will cause problems with your emails landing in the inbox. They will always be sent to spam. So those are going to be the top 3 things to look for. And then from there, once you sort of got a good IP reputation, you've got a decent audience that are taken to your emails. They're clicking on them. They're landing in the inbox. But now we want them to actually open it. So, work on those subject lines, work on the copy, continue to give value. You can certainly promote, but just keep that flow going. And if you ever get word, or maybe through your own seed list testing, if your emails, if they ever land in promotions, that's okay. Kudos to you, because that is considered a secondary inbox. It's not the primary. It's not where we always want to land, but it is landing in the inbox. It's just a sorted version. So a lot of folks say, well, it's landing in spam. Well, once I start digging in, it's really promotions that it's landing, but they're considering it spam, and that's not correct. So from there, if it is landing in promotions, step back, work on testing out different subject lines as a first course. And then if nothing changes, work on changing a few phrases within the copy. There could be just a single sentence that has caused Google to flag it as promotional. So just little changes here and there can make all the difference. Does that make sense?
Great. Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Because I wondered why sometimes someone's email showed up in the inbox and sometimes it's promotional.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It could be
Yep.
from the copy.
Yep.
Just a little tweak there, and they're all of a sudden showing up in the promotions tab.
Yep.
Interesting. What about like your suggestions for setting up like your own like in the agency tab versus one of my sub accounts for emails?
Yeah, so this one, okay, so there's some changes. So, with the new Yahoo and Google updates that are coming February 1st.
I've not read on that at all yet.
Yeah, well, so make sure if you can get on my list. There's an email as soon as you sign up. You'll get 2 emails. One of them will be the Yahoo and Google updates. Of course, you can go out there and find them. They're the sender guidelines that they both publish. They're out there. You can go read it, but it does slightly change a few things. So from an agency perspective, let's say that you've got a high-level agency and you're wanting to onboard sub accounts, right? The one thing that you do not want to do as an agency is attach your production domain to the agency, which is going to allow your sub accounts to use. We don't want anyone to mess with your own production email sending domains. We want that to be as clean as possible. So what I would do, and it's fine from a white label standpoint to use production for your white labeled links and things like that. But as far as allowing sub accounts to send from a production domain that you own, I wouldn't do that. So in my world, I own Maverick CRM, and I purchased a generic sending domain called emsender. It's emsendr.com. And so if anyone is inside of my agency that wants to immediately start sending an email, then they're going to be using some sort of a subdomain off of that root domain. I want everyone to have unique sending stats across the board through my own Mailgun account. So everyone that onboards is going to have a unique subdomain. And typically I do that by company name. There's some other situations where I might use something a little bit more unique, but that's a different process. But ideally, they're sending from a generic sending domain, and it's unique to them, so we can isolate stats if we need to. So that's going to be the one piece of advice that I would recommend that you look into. But knowing that Google and Yahoo have these new requirements out, be very mindful, though, of any sub-account owner that is going to be sending more than 5,000 emails per day, because a requirement for that, so that puts you in the neighborhood of what? 100,000 to maybe 150,000 emails per month. So if that's the case, then the display from address, so you go into an email, you're saying this is coming from matt@funneltechie.com, right? So that's your display from address. We want to make sure that that is completely in alignment with the address that you're pushing it through via Mailgun. So if we wanted to take the approach that I just mentioned, creating a unique subdomain on a generic domain that I own for the agency, that's not going to work for them. So they're going to be considered more of a high volume sender.
Right.
So in that situation, we want them to be on their own custom domain. So it's up to you as the agency owner to educate these people on those facts and make it possible for them to get that done, whether it be through your own Mailgun account or help them establish their own for that purpose.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like an interesting clientele that's sending that many. I work primarily like within the home services field, so none of my contractors are sending that many emails.
Yeah, well, it makes it easy for you and for them, right? So they don't have to worry about that component. And then the other thing, though, to mention is that every sending domain does need to have the new requirement is that every sending domain needs to have a DMARC policy and with a policy of at least none set. So that's something that's new. You didn't have to have that before, but now it's a requirement, and it's really there to help make people more aware of the DMARC usage. There's a lot of cool things that you can take advantage of with DMARC, and so now they're pushing for that. The none policy is effectively, you still really don't have a DMARC in place. It's not really doing anything, but it's there, it's ready, it's set to none. So they will be checking that. So I would highly recommend that you get that on board as well.
And there's some DNS providers that don't even allow you to handle the MX records and like to add a DMARC from my experience, right?
Well, DMARC, they should. So a DMARC is a text record, a TXT record. So in
Right.
most situations, you can do that. So, and it's, that should be easy enough. But if you're doing, what is it? Is it Wix that if
Yeah, I
you
think it's
try to
in
set up a
Wix.
subdomain,
Yeah.
yeah, they won't allow it. They have the ability to do it. You have to get in touch with their support, but it's a pain.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah, you can do it through support, but you have to convince them. So it takes a little bit, but yeah, try your best to use Cloudflare if you can for your
Yeah.
domains. And I know that it's difficult. So if you got web
And
presence
so
with Wix, it's gonna be tough.
if you could explain, because it's sometimes hard for me to explain like the
Mhm.
nuances, because that's one thing I've been like when you come into HighLevel, you like sometimes you hear the like use Cloudflare, but sometimes you don't know why. And
Mhm.
so sometimes for my brain, it's like helpful to know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been pushing that to everybody. Like, just use Cloudflare; it helps. But like, what is the what is the technical reason for that? Like, and how could I explain that to somebody?
Yeah, well, first of all, Cloudflare is free. So let's say, for
Right.
example, give you a hypothetical. So let's say that you went out and purchased or registered a domain with GoDaddy. So you go look at their Finder, you find the domain that you want, you instantly buy it. So you're attached to their DNS servers. And yeah, you can use theirs. That's perfectly
Right.
fine. But Cloudflare is going to set you up a little bit differently. They're going to give you a little bit more security around your domains. It is free. So all that's required is that you got it set up in GoDaddy right now. It's registered there. Just go into Cloudflare, create a free account, put in your domain that you want. And what's going to happen is that as soon as you put in your domain, it's going to scan some records. It doesn't always pull every one of those records in. It kind of depends on how many you have listed in your other provider. It's going to scan them. But at some point, it's going to give you the DNS name server addresses that you now own through that domain. So you take those name servers, you put it inside of Google's panel, and now you can do the switch. The reason I'm pushing a lot of folks to use Cloudflare is because you get a lot more security out of it. There's a lot of rules that you can play with from a page rule perspective, which is very easy. So if you ever wanted to control the root domain compared to the www version of the website, that's very easy to set up. You can control SSL certificates very easily inside of Cloudflare. Another use case, which is one that I like just because I've got it, there's a very sophisticated make automation that I do for automatically creating Belgun subdomains. And so in order to make that work, you've got to have Cloudflare because you need to take advantage of their advanced certificate manager. So that's
Hmm.
another use case for it. So for those facts, definitely around security, that's why I push for it. And it's just easy. It's just clear. It's just, it's very easy to use.
Why does the www work better in Cloudflare and route it better?
Well, so there's um, a lot of people that don't really have any other means of doing it will typically set inside of HighLevel, they'll put their root domain, point it to a funnel, right?
Right.
And they'll put the
Yeah.
www version. And so now in the back house of your name servers or your DNS servers, they're all, C names, and that's fine. You can get by with that. It's just not a very clean way of doing it. It's just there's a slightly better approach. So that way HighLevel is not handling so much. You just Cloudflare is now going to do a CDN proxy, which is also another benefit. So whenever you talk about CDN, that's a content delivery network. Essentially, they're caching or making a copy of your website so that whenever another person, in a totally different state on the other side of the country tries to access your website, they're going to pull the CDN data from the very closest Cloudflare data center to them so that it's a better user experience. So
Hmm.
it's through those types of things that make it a little bit better.
Oh, cool. Now excuse me, but I don't know what the www means.
Oh, www dot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so www. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just a quicker and easier way for me to say it.
Okay, gotcha. I
Yeah.
was like, never heard that before. Um, okay, cool. Well, can you tell us a little bit about Inbox IQ?
Yeah. In fact, I would love to show you if that's cool.
Yeah. Let me see if I can swap it. Edit layout. Did that work for you? Can you share your screen now?
Yeah, let's see. Let me pull up a different one here. Yeah, I've got one pulled up. Okay, so I'm going to present, and let's see if I can do.
Is it letting you present?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Can you guys see my screen?
There we go. I was able to add it, so I think it worked.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch back to Inbox IQ. So this is the way it looks inside of a HighLevel account. So basically what it is, it's going to give you holistic stats across your entire footprint for whatever domain you've got connected to that sub account. So it's going to show you the domain that you're sending from. It's going to show you your contact trends. And this is all done over time. So the default view for the dashboard is a 30-day representation. You can come over here and filter by predefined timeline. You can come down to the date selector, and if there's a different time frame that you want, you just go in here and select a custom date range, and it'll give you that information. This is a client of mine that I've been working with for a while. So you can see that he's sending close to 420,000 emails per month. You can see his open rate. So this has been very, we've been working hard on getting it up to this level. So almost 81% for an open rate.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive, especially with that volume.
Yeah.
You can see kind of the frequency and cadence of the email sends within the graph. And so all of these points are, data points, and you'll have a little summary box that will pop up that kind of shows you everything within that particular day. So you can look at requests, delivered, opens, clicks, bounces, all of that. You get total deliveries per provider. So he has a lot, right? So this view is kind of shrunken a little bit, but at a glance, you can see, well, who am I sending most of my emails to? Which inbox provider? So in this case, it's Gmail, and that will probably be the case for the majority of us. You can now also see, this is something that was introduced, email provider stats. This was introduced maybe 3 or 4 months ago now. And this has been a game changer because now you can break down your metrics by inbox provider. And from my perspective, it helps me to better troubleshoot email deliverability issues. So we can see here that with Gmail, they got 78, with Yahoo 86, Microsoft, which is Outlook, 76, so on and so forth. So maybe if that open rate was maybe in the low 20s or maybe in the teens, which is going to be way different than these others. So that would indicate to me, well, there's something that Microsoft does not like about my email sending fabric, my infrastructure. It could be IP related. More than likely that's the case. Or it could be the domain that they don't like. There's something they don't like. So it allows you to put focus on those particular areas. So you can kind of get to the bottom of what's happening. So this is huge. You can see your IP. In fact, you can go out and view a report by Cisco Talos. And basically, Cisco Talos is an aggregator of data. So it's going to give us back a report on sender IP reputation. It's going to tell us what this spam level is, in this case, none. And are we on any significant block list? In this case, there's nothing indicated there, so that helps us out when troubleshooting. And then at the bottom, of course, we got our suppressions. And from this panel, you can, if you want to maybe go into unsubscribes, right? And we want to purge any of these that are there maybe every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks. You just make that sort of a process that you build into your flow. But you can delete the suppressions from this view. And from an agency perspective, if this was a part of your agency, then this is something that your sub accounts would absolutely love, because this is the one thing that HighLevel is not able to give you, especially in this granular view. And the other thing is that this is a holistic dashboard. I'm not giving you per campaign level stats, but by February, campaign level stats should be available. So those are coming. So that will be a part of the dashboard.
Wow, cool. And you're able to do this in each sub account.
In each one, exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
Wow. And this only works right now for Mailgun.
So this works for Mailgun users, and it can be the agency's Mailgun, or it can be the user's, the sub-account owner's Mailgun account. Also, you can use it with SendGrid and with Postmark.
Oh, cool. Neat. Awesome. That is so cool. I feel like I just absorbed so much information from you in like
Awesome.
30 minutes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so I shared with everybody in the group the link to Matt's email opt-in. And do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so that opt-in. So basically, if you're a high-level user, that opt-in that she provided, that's going to be very useful for you guys to take advantage of. There's literally 12 steps or 12 items listed in that first document. That is a confirmation opt-in box as well. So you'll get one email, then you'll have to confirm that you actually want the asset, and then the second email will actually contain what you're looking for. So make sure that you confirm that first email. It's a double opt-in. And then after about 10 minutes or so, you'll get another email, which is very important. It's the Google and Yahoo update requirements. Will look just like this right here. This is also the second piece that you desperately need to have and understand, just to make sure everything is ready to go by February 1st of 2024. So you'll automatically get that email 10 minutes after you opt in.
Do you recommend doing a double opt-in like that for like a standard thing that I should recommend to my clients and myself?
I like it just because it is kind of a pain to establish, to set up. But if you can build that workflow that's needed for it, it really does help. It helps a lot from an engagement standpoint. So you can imagine that, okay, someone has opted in for, maybe they opted in with, and not really they don't have any intention to ever engage with you. You know, we get those, which is kind of
Yeah.
odd. They'll opt in. So now they get a box that says, well, you need to confirm your opt-in before you can get any other emails from me. Well, that's going to cut down on that chatter, right? So now we're not flooding the email metrics with people that don't want to ever open our email. So that's one thing. So that's really the purpose of it. And it's another way of just validating that, you know, first of all, you've got the correct email address. Was it fat fingered? We don't want to keep sending to fat fingered email addresses. So from that perspective, it's very useful. Is it always needed? Not necessarily, but if you can do it in some regards, it certainly can help.
Is there like a use case you'd say like it's probably not needed, or?
Well, like I don't always do it. So even though I'm the
Okay.
email guy, so even I don't always do a double opt-in. I just happened to do one with that piece that with the Elite Email Academy. I should probably do more of those, but again, it's kind of a pain to set up, and that's probably really why most people don't do it with HighLevel. But is it needed? Yeah, because it's really going to help you in the long run. And since we're sort of talking about double opt-ins, I'll kind of add this too, just because it kind of goes hand in hand with it, with people that are unsubscribing. So don't worry about ever using the word unsubscribe at the bottom of your emails. We still need a link that says, you know, if you want to opt out, you can, you know, click unsubscribe. Make it clear for everyone to do that, because that's only going to help you as the email marketer. We want to make it as easy as possible for that contact to unsubscribe, because if we make it a little bit difficult and put hurdles in place, then they're just going to mark you as spam. So we need to make it super easy.
That makes sense. I do have a question though, like, and when I'm thinking about this double opt-in thing, maybe this is a good application for it. So you're at like maybe a networking event, you get somebody's like business card, and you maybe want to send them through a workflow of like a series of emails, but they didn't necessarily opt into your email list.
Yeah,
Might be a good use case for a double opt-in.
that would be a really good use case. Yeah, just make sure that in that first confirmation box that you're sort of leading them into what what sort of value you can provide to them. Are they going to remember who you are just from your email address? I don't know. Just make sure that in that confirmation box you sort of give them a little bit of information of what you can help them with or provide value for. And maybe that will, you know, trigger a light bulb. So they'll see, they'll be like, oh, cool, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And they'll confirm it, and then that would be a really good use case. But yeah, that's a good one.
And you're just taking those to like an email that you're making in HighLevel, for example. Maybe just like reminding you about how you met, and then that's how you could do that.
You
Work.
could, yeah, that would be perfect for that, actually. Yeah, set up
Cool.
a workflow. Yeah, an email, a confirmation specifically for that event, and do it that way.
Yeah, interesting. I never thought of the double opt-in for that application. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. You have any last minute pointers, tips for people that are coming on and using HighLevel as an agency owner and then sub accounts?
Yes, I've got one more. So,
Okay.
so let's say that you're coming on. Actually, I'll give you two more tips. So the very first thing, let's say that you're coming into the platform with your own list. Okay.
Okay.
I personally don't know, only where they came from, where you got these contacts, but it may be useful for you to sort of put it through a cleaning tool, first of all, just to validate the email addresses. A system that I really like to use is called Never Bounce. So you go there, load it into Never Bounce. You create an account, load it into Never Bounce. In fact, they'll analyze your entire list for free and tell you whether they recommend it or not. They'll do an analysis, and then at the end of the analysis, you'll get some sort of a percentage. Um, I think if it's above maybe 5%, they're going to say, yeah, we recommend that you do a clean. If it's below that, then they're going to say, no, it's not really necessary, but they'll tell you that. So I would do that before you come into HighLevel. So make that something that you
So like
do.
anybody I'm onboarding, if they give me a list, go ahead and throw it in
I would
there.
consider it just just to play it safe.
Yeah.
If we're if it's a perfect world, right?
Right.
Let's do it that way. And then in the very beginning, if you have a list of maybe 50 contacts, yeah, you can go ahead on day one, email all 50 contacts. That's not going to hurt anything. But let's say that you've got a list of 5,000 or more. On day one, we don't want to immediately blast that entire list. We want to be very methodical and be slow. Um, we want to be slow, first of all, because we want to slowly warm up that domain. And second of all, we want to be very careful and just slowly introduce things, even though we've possibly put it through a list cleaner. There could be situations where not every one of those addresses are still valid because not every checker is foolproof. So we want to be very methodical with that very first send. So that's why I want to do a very slow drip campaign to slowly warm up that domain and to watch our engagement stats.
Cool. Did you say you have one more point?
Well, I think that might have been it. But if I were going to give you one more, take advantage of using GPT. That's Google Postmaster Tools. And you can go to postmaster.google.com, and that's a free feedback loop system from Google, and it allows you, as long as you've properly authenticated your domain, and if you're sending at least 100 emails per day, then for that given 24-hour period, Google will give you information based upon that last 24 hours. And it will be useful to kind of see, well, what was the spam complaint like? What your domain reputation looks like from that perspective. So they'll give you all of that information, and that will help aid in your email deliverability.
Wow, cool. So much information, and that I feel like you've shared with us in the quick 37 minutes.
Awesome.
So I really appreciate it. And is there any more last minute, so I'm setting up myself as a HighLevel agency owner. You're just thinking really generic for my setup purposes, and then for the sub accounts, kind of like generic again, off of that main domain.
Yeah,
Am
exactly.
I
Yeah.
understanding that right?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely use a generic sending domain because we don't want to ruin anything that the agency owner owns as far as production level. It needs to be a generic sending domain. And then, of course, if you ever get anyone that is a high volume sender, then of course, hopefully we can identify that very soon,
Yeah.
or maybe they could tell you that they are.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then push them into getting their own custom domain, whether that be through you or through their own Mailgun or SendGrid or Postmark account.
And in your opinion, is it over 1,000 per day that's considered high sender?
Well, knowing that Google is in Yahoo put out the updates, it's going to be 5,000 emails per day. And if we look over
Okay.
a 30-day period, that's close to 150,000 emails roughly.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a
Or it
lot.
sounds like a lot to me anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm definitely gonna rewatch this to take down all these notes.
Yeah.
Sure appreciated it. And
You're welcome.
I hope everyone enjoys it as well. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt. And we'll see everybody in the Facebook group more.
Sounds good. See you.
All right. Bye, Matt.